Welcome to this month's wine tasting with Little Birdie Magazine. My name's Richard Norris. I'm the owner here at Osk Cocktail and Wine Bar on Gregory Street in North Ward, and very excited to have a couple of new release wines that you most likely, in fact I can almost guarantee it, haven't ever seen before. From Storm King Vineyards or Storm King Winery down in the Granite Belt, so some Queensland wines, and they are known for their reds and also for a couple of the whites, but what we're looking at here today, we've got a Shiraz Malbec, which I'm really excited to try. And we've also got a Graciano Mataro. Two slightly unusual blends, or two slightly unusual varieties that have been blended together that you don't normally see on the label, but they're each sort of quite popular and quite well used in their own right. So really looking forward to getting into that. Let's go, let's try some wine. So I think the one that I'm going to start with is the Mataro Graciano, and that's because I'm actually really excited about that one. But it's all in the story, right? Wine is always about, it's always the story, right? So I did a little bit of looking because it's not like the kind of variety of wine that we often see, and they're both. It makes sense that they grow it on the Darling Downs. So Graciano and Mataro, they're both Spanish and Southern French style of reds, which is quite cool. Mataro, you never hear of it, but it's actually all of the South Australian red blends. It forms a huge part of that. Really? So it's actually a really established grape in South Australia, in the Barossa, but it never stands out on its own. It's always the Cab Savs and the Shirazes and the and the blends and whatnot. So Mataro is actually quite strongly entrenched in Australian wine, which is pretty rad. And then the Graciano is a Southern French Spanish blend. And they're both, again, that really sort of dark, fruity, spicy kind of thing, which, when you think about Barossa Valley Reds, it kind of matches that in terms of what it smells and tastes like.
That's a really unusual flavour. I was expecting something a bit different.
So I think it's not as dark, I guess, and not necessarily as full, I think, as like... Yeah, that's right. Well, so Graciano comes from the Rioja region in Spain, which is sort of the northwest of Spain. And Rioja and Tempranillo, those like sort of slightly lighter Spanish reds, are traditionally from there. So it does, it takes that lighter red that's going on, then adds in some of that South Australian red wine punch that we all know and love.
What can you taste in it? What can you taste in it?
I find that it's spicy straight away. Popping the nose in, pepper and spiciness.
It certainly finishes off real spicy.
It's fairly acidic too. It's only 2021, so it's still quite a white wine. And they did sit it on their skins for nearly 4 months, so it'll probably age fairly well. And that acidity will drop off a little bit and probably get a little more complex and whatnot. I can imagine having a glass of this while standing around doing like wood-fired pizzas or something, it's a bit, it'll cut through.
Chili on it.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Extra spice with it so you get that full flavour from it.
Yeah.
I think maybe letting it sit for a minute too.
Lets it go. But I quite like it.
Well, I
Quite
really
nicely,
like this one.
So wrapping this one up, what are your final thoughts on it, Josie?
So for me, it's a 3.5 for this wine at the moment. It's I actually really like it. I think it's fantastic. So that's 3.5 birdies. I think with some cellaring for 2 to 3 years, probably it would go up to a 4.5 to a 5. It's a beautiful wine. It has loads and loads of potential.
I guess I found it interesting. I guess it's probably not my pick. I probably expected something not so spicy, a bit more fruit. But like Josie said, I think it would age well, and I'd probably like this visiting in a couple more years to soften it up a bit.
Have to have a chat to the winemakers.
Yeah.
Alrighty. So, it's a 2021 Mataro Graciano, so it's an interesting blend of wines and not ones that we often see on a label in Australia. The Mataro is a big Australian grape, but it's always sort of hidden away just as a part of the blends, the red blends that come out of South Australia, the Barossa in particular, and Graciano is a Spanish grape variety. out of the Rioja region. It's, you know, your Tempraneos and your Riocas there, those sort of light, great warm weather Spanish reds. They grow, you know, in those nice arid climates. So it's sort of, you've got that heaviness that you might expect out of the Barossa, that light Spanish red thing coming together. And I think it is, as we've said, I think probably aging is the best thing that could happen to these. And look, on the back, they only did 630 bottles of this, right? So, I mean, this isn't the kind of thing you just jam back at a barbecue to get on the buzz, right? This is something that you'd enjoy and you'd savour. This is number 122 out of 630. And I think if I was going to drink it today, I really see it as being probably, think Spain, think outdoors, think something wood-fired, think sort of some pretty spicy, fruity kind of foods, lots of tomatoes, that sort of thing going on. I think it would complement that really well. But I think, as we've all decided, that you can just tell that with a little bit of time, because it did rest on its skins for 112 odd days, I think. So the tannins are in there, so it is going to age, and that acidity will start to turn a bit and add some complexity. And I think, you know, to get your hands on one of these now and save it, or one of these 2021s in a few years, I think it might be a really, really sort of sophisticated, really enjoyable kind of wine that you could drink in a bit of a, you know, wider range of scenarios. But thoroughly enjoyable. I'd
Your birdie review?
A birdie review, we're going out of 5, are we? How many bodies? Oh look, I'm an optimist, right? And I'm a sort of positive kind of chap, so I'm going to score it on its potential. I'm going to give it a 4. Because I really think I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. You can just tell that probably against what you're expecting, it probably just feels a bit young. And we've arguably drunk it a little bit early. But so I'm going to give it 4. I think it's thoroughly enjoyable. And if I had an open bottle in my hands that we had to get rid of, I wouldn't complain. But if I had another bottle, I would save it for a couple of years.
It might be coming with us tonight for dinner at the African place.
There we go.
Okay, brilliant. Let's
So
try the next
let's
one.
move on to the next one.
Yep.
I'm really excited for this next one for a couple of reasons. First thing is that the Granite Belt is, you know, the Shirazes, those dark heavy reds are what the Granite Belt does really, really well. It's kind of got that weird adapted Mediterranean climate that suits them. And Malbec is, this is sort of almost like a new age or a new world, I should say, one of the new world wines. I think we'll find it heavier, a bit fuller, a lot more going on. It still is a younger one, still is 2021, but it's not going to have that lightness, that sort of Spanish lightness that I think we saw in the Mataro Graciano. The thing about wine and food and whatever you have is that, you know, the objective qualities of whatever it is that you're eating or drinking has a value, right? But then so much of it is also about the story behind it, and the narrative, and the circumstances in which you consume it, and the story behind the actual item itself. So I think it's fantastic. But straight away, if you have and we'll pour a little, smell it over, guys. Straight away, the smell and everything. You can tell it doesn't have that acidity. It's not as bright and fruity and whatnot. It's already what you might expect a bit more out of a this sort of Shiraz Malbec kind of thing.
Oh, look at the colour.
It's dark and plummy, and I'm a little bit excited for this one. This is my kind of wine. Like when I'm sort of just my go-to personally. This is really it. So. And that nose straight away is really, really.
Yeah.
It's like those traditional. I have a feeling, Derek, this might be up your alley a little more than the Graciano. I think one of the interesting things about this is that straight away it has that mouthfeel, that tannin mouthfeel, that little bit of dryness and everything comes through, which I think just reflects obviously just reflects the varieties that are in there. And now that heavier one, and that, you know, that's in part that slight sort of that taste that goes with that dryness. I mean, this is another one. So this is another one that I think would age exceptionally just for even a couple of years or so. You can still tell it's such a fresh. It's a really fresh, really nice kind of thing, but it's
lovely and smooth now too. It's an easy drink now on this one. I think. I don't even know if you need to age it. This one actually is
You like it just as it comes. Traditionally and you've moved off those big heavy reds, and if you find that you like something a bit lighter these days, then that, I guess it makes a bit of sense, hey, that's something that could really kind of pick up some depth and a bit of heaviness if it ages for a few years.
But
you're probably loving it straight off the...
And maybe that's what it is. It's our climate up here is perfectly suited to these not quite as heavy styles. Because normally you would think this would be a
sort of a meatier kind
Yeah,
of thing,
yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not. It's actually quite smooth and light, but still full of flavour, I find.
I feel this one has those tannins, and it's still got that lightness. I think this would, out of the two, this appeals to me a lot, and I think that it would be one of those ones, once again, in a period of time, just a bit longer aging. There's another interesting thing they talk about with this one here is it's all very, very sort of low, sort of low level of intervention, so minimal fining, minimum filtration. They do make a note that there might be some sediments. It's a very natural sort of wine as well. They really haven't messed with it.
Beautiful colour.
Yeah, it's incredible. It looks amazing in the glass. Hey?
My review for this wine is that I would actually give it, I'm going to give it I'm going to say a 4. I like the other wine. I actually really like the other wine probably more, but I actually really value that this is a very good wine. And, as we've all said, with both these wines, it's a new release wines. They could both do with a little bit of cellaring. But yeah, this one's still good to drink now. Not my favourite styles of wine, but the way they've actually blended it, it's beautiful. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4.
Shiraz Malbec is a very impressive wine. It's certainly one of my favourites. It's got excellent colour, great aroma, and very good mouthfeel. I think it's a very impressive blend that they put together. We don't actually know the percentage, but it's very well balanced. And I'd give it 4 birdies.
So I love this. I was very excited because it is that Shiraz Malbec wine. So kind of the best of Australia that we've adopted from Europe, and then Malbec's the best of Argentina, what they have adopted from Europe. So sort of the southern hemisphere, taking it back to the sort of the traditional wine, I guess, regions. Again, like the other one, and it makes perfect sense. It's a 2021 and 2 varieties that really quite enjoy aging a little bit. So. Again, I think, and you can definitely taste that dryness in the mouth. You've got the tannins, a bit of acidity still going on there. It's a little bit fruitier, but it's far, I guess, heavier and a bit fuller already than the Graciano Montaro. I like this, and once again, I mean, if I've given the Graciano 4 stars, I'd probably have to, once again, I'm a positive kind of guy. I'd probably have to give this 4.5 for potential. I could see myself really settling in and doing damage to a couple of bottles of this, in a year or so, just if it just sat in the bottle and just sort of, just kind of got to develop a little bit more, lost a little bit of the acidity, and that tannin converted into a little bit more complexity, but I thoroughly enjoy it. I quite like it's kind of got all those things it needs to have. There's nothing wrong there. I think it's going to be an absolute banger in a year or so when it's sat in the bottle for a little longer.